So let me. So yesterday we discussed the a kind of history of programming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we came to certain constructs of the programming language, like the need of variables, need of constants, operators, loops, conditional statements. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at any point, you need at least, I won't say. Hello, Nitin. Uh, Patrick, I think that you're our new fellow, Nitin. He's from India and he was invited. I think he can listen to me as well. Hi, Nitin. How are you? Can you hear me? I'm not sure. I can't hear you. You can respond via chat as well. One second, Patrick. Let me double confirm whether
Yes, okay.
whether he can listen to me or not.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. I have sent him a text message as well, but I'm not sure he can listen to me or not. Probably his audio is, not configured.
Yeah, I had
Okay.
problems. I had problems with the
No, he
audio
cannot hear me. So enable your audio. Yeah. I think. Hello.
Hello.
Nitin. Hi, Nitin. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. And it's good that you have joined. It would be a little bit late on your side, but you are most welcome
Yeah.
to join. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So Patrick, Nitin from India, and Nitin, Patrick from South Wales.
Hi there.
Okay. Hello.
So let me continue the session, and then we will if we will have a time, then we will discuss more about the personally. Yeah.
Yeah, cool, yeah.
Okay, so Nitin, have you done any programming language?
Yes, it is about HTML, C++, and C.
Okay, that's good. Good. So now I will be going from the basics, yeah, because the Patrick is in level 4, and probably you might have done a level 3 as well, or you have done
Yes.
other courses, yeah. So definitely you would be aware of every basics of programming. But like in level
Yes.
4, Patrick is starting from the scratch. Yeah. So
Okay.
let me catch up, the some basics of programming, and then I would go through the some programming in C as well. And I would appreciate that you would also concentrate what I am trying to explain to him, and you are most welcome to participate as well. You can ask the questions at any point as well. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Welcome. Good. So, Patrick, like yesterday, as we started the computer programming, and as I discussed earlier, that the structure of this, uh, you know, uh, this document, the unit specification, is somehow a kind of mixed up, like they immediately talk about the API, application programming interface, then SDLC, like a system development cycle. Then they are talking about the variables quickly instead of going through any the formal way. So like yesterday I gave you a kind of the introduction from from the perspective of a computer, like hardware needs to run via software, and the software is set of instructions, and when we need to run our own specified programs, then we need to program it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So for programming, you have an opportunity to write certain code, like in machine language, then or low level language, and maybe mid level language or high level language. So machine language is in zeros and ones, and mid level language like assembly language is partially in zeros and ones, or direct access to the hardware. However, you write some human language instructions as well. And high level language is purely written in human language. Obviously it has a particular syntax, yeah, and it needs to be converted into machine language using certain translators called compilers or interpreters. Yeah, you remember this?
Yeah. With the there's the compiler that compiles the whole code, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the is it interpreter?
Yeah, interpreter. Yeah.
That does one line at a time. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's what I've got in my notes, and I just wanted to check that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah.
like in GW Basic, it used to be the interpreter, and there is the Java is dual one. Nitin, are you aware about the Java?
Yes, I am aware about it.
Do you know Java has got the interpreter or compiler?
Java has interpreter.
What's the name of that interpreter?
Virtual machine, Java virtual machine.
Java virtual machine, but there is a just-in-time compiler as well. JIT. Have you heard about it?
No.
Okay. So basically, initially it is compiled, and first, and then it is also using the interpreter. Every language has got its own specification, yeah, and it has got their advantages and disadvantages. So normally the interpreter and compilers, they are used in programming language. The difference is, one of the differences, that compiler compiles the whole program, and interpreter compiles line by line, as well as the capable to execute. So we're not going into that much detail, because this unit is a kind of introductory one. So I want to come to the next point, that after explaining the type of programming languages, now we are going to discuss the programming paradigms. Yeah. So programming paradigms, that in which paradigm, in which structure do these programming exist, and how they look like. Are you aware about the difference between the procedural programming and functional programming, Nitin?
Yeah, I'm aware about it.
Okay, can you participate? Just, please don't mind, I'm trying to make the class, interactive, so that you should have an opportunity to participate as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you tell me the difference?
Procedural programming is a language in which a line by line code is executed, while in functional programming a block of code is executed.
Can you give me an
Hello.
example of particular procedural programming?
That is assembly language programming.
Do you think that assembly language programming is, the procedural programming?
I think so.
Have you done the assembly language?
No.
Okay. Now you said that in functional programming, the program is block of code is executed, and in functional programming, the code is executed line by line.
In procedure, it is executed line by line, and in functional, it is executed as a block.
No, basically, now let me try to explain to you. Yeah. What happened initially, the programming used to be written into lines of code, continuous lines of code, by using, let's say, line numbers, line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4. And the programmers used to, make the logic using go-to statement. Yeah? The programmers used to used to write the go-to statement for jumping. Yeah, jumping, like, for example, if the 10 lines were executed and then the programmer needed to repeat something or to skip something. Yeah, are you getting, Patrick?
Yeah, sort of. I can only just hear you though.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, so, I don't know whether my internet's playing up.
Okay, so if we look at the very initial programming, there used to be a sequential lines of code being executed, and those lines of code used to be unstructured, and even if they wanted to go or repeat certain lines, they used to say go to line number, for example, an earlier line, and that kind of programming paradigm used to be called as spaghetti code.
Ah, right, okay, yeah. So it could start at 1, then it might go to 5, then it could go to 10, then it could go back to 2, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. So Nitin, that used to be called the spaghetti code. You must have heard about this word.
Yes.
Yeah. So like even assembly language uses a kind of spaghetti code. Then the programmers thought that this approach is not good and it is very difficult to understand that logic of the program, the flow of the program. Then they introduced kind of structured programming or procedural programming. Right? What they did, they said that a particular portion of the code may be given a kind of start and end. Like in Pascal programming, a kind of procedure is explained. The procedure, the name of the procedure, and in between the line of code. And whenever that particular code used to be called, then it was easily understandable that where particular procedure is called, and it was only known to the body of the procedure that where it exists, and it would try to look normal unspaghetti code. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Nitin?
Yes.
Now, then, so this is called the structured and or procedural programming. Then later on they realized that, for example, the particular code, can be used for a specific purpose, and the inside of the particular procedure would remain constant, because every time when you wanted to, if you are calling the code, then the same lines of code would have been executed. So that's about the procedural or structured programming. However, it was much more better than the spaghetti code earlier one. If you imagine that if you are writing the lines of code, and later on you got an idea to write portions of the code within a procedure name. Obviously, a procedure was given a kind of start and end. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Then they realize that they try to make more reusable code. Then they introduce the functions. Yeah. So functions
Yes.
is like a kind of mathematical function. If you have done any mathematics, then a function is operated on kind of input, and some output is given. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for example, if you create, let's say, function id. Now this function has a capability to work as a function. Now, if the input was not given, then what it would be? It would look like a procedure. Yeah. So,
Yes.
but when it became the function, then it has a capability to operate, reuse the code, yeah, for given values. So, given values A and B can be any 2 and 5, whatever whatsoever, and the operation inside could be assigned to C, and this would return the output. Yeah. So,
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, so make sense?
Yeah.
So this functionality was introduced into functional programming, and it gave a kind of life to programming, because mathematically there are lots of problems which require calculation. For example, C equal to A plus B is just one line arithmetic calculation. However, there could be hundreds of thousands of lines, and after performing the operations, you at some point get an answer. Is it possible? Mathematically it happens. Yeah. Mathematically you keep on solving the equations, and then finally you get an answer. So that functionality, the formulation would have been done, for example, manually. It could take lots of mathematical calculations and mind used by you. However, if you have created a programming function, then that really gave help because of computing in the real life. Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, so the functions were introduced. Yeah. And one program could have one function or more than one function. One program
Yes.
could have one function or more than one function. Yeah. So
Yes.
in this way, like C programming language, if we have a look on the C programming language, then, for example, if we want to write a C program, yeah, then what we need to do, the entry point into a one simple program is you write int main and the body of this main function, and the C program compiler would start with this function, and obviously this is the library which we have to mention in order to utilize the programs, libraries, functionalities. Yeah. So
Yes.
for example, what's going to let me zoom little bit. So what's going to be done? Printf function, then anything within the double quotes would be printed, and character function is used and returns 0. Yeah. So
Yes,
why we use, Nitin, get character?
because we are commanding to the computer or compiler that please show the character which is take as the input
Why?
to display on the screen.
Okay. Would it not be displayed on the screen without using this?
Not displayed
Why?
because it's a character, and printf is a function to show the code text,
I mean,
while
for
get
example, if we are saying that print this function, the print this statement, and this would have done definitely. Why we need this, get character function?
to take another text code
Why we
for
need
the
to
display.
get this code? Why we need to get this code? Obviously, but when we are saying printf, then why to use get character?
Get character because we need it's a loop. I say it's a loop.
It's a loop.
No, sorry, it's not loop. It's next instruction that it is the compiler is ready to take another text as an input.
My question is, when the C programs itself says that you should have a main program, entry program, yeah, and printf statement would print I am alive, beware, and then why there is a need to use the get character function. However, I only want to, see any statement hello. Why there is a need to get character?
Does that mean you have to press enter?
I mean, why there is a need of get character function? And Nathan, you must have seen everyone uses this get character.
Yes.
What is the purpose?
Ready for the another line, so computer can get another code.
But we don't need to get any other code. Okay, no worries. Yeah, that's fine. Have you done any small projects into C language, Nitin?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Now let me try to explain to you. What happens, thank you for the answers, and yeah, basically, when we say main function, what happens after execution of the main function, it dies. Yeah, and let me.
Why does it die?
Because it's done. The part of the main function from A to Z is done, and let me try, this example for you in the C programming, C turbo, and then you would realize that why this is needed. Yeah.
Okay.
And I would explain to you. Now, turbo C, in order to execute the turbo C, you need a compiler. You need to download, for example, turbo C 3.2. Yeah. And you need to install this, and this would allow you to normally, you go through command prompt, yeah, and you go to this, then bin, yeah, and you type tc, then you get the editor. But nowadays Windows 10, it won't allow you to run in normal way. We go through here.
DOS box.
Yeah. Now
Wow.
here is the normal program. This is called the IDE, Integrated Development Environment for C language. Yeah. Nitin, you must have played with this a lot. Have you?
Yes.
Yeah. So here is a main, yeah, printf function hello, yeah, and I'm going to compile this, yeah. After compiling, what happens? You need to run. Control F9. Now, did you realize that could you see any output?
No, nothing happened.
No. What happens? This compiler IDE has to perform the main function and has to return into the same IDE. Nitin?
Yes.
Yeah, because we are not asking the compiler to stay for a while. This ID allows you to write the program here in blue screen. This allows you to compile through the menu bar, and this allows you to run this through menu bar. And normally the option to
it is like that. The computer has get instruction to execute printf statement hello.
Yeah.
But
and it is returning back to the IDE. Yeah. And
yes, it is compiled for the IDE only, not for the user screen. So to get it compile and show the result to the user, we need get care.
Basically, the editor screen is different and the output screen is different. What it did, it displayed the output on the black screen, yeah, and
Yes.
and this came back, to the editor again, yeah. And now
Yes.
what you need to do, 1 second. Basically, that we are in the window programming, so one second. F10. Let me start it again, yeah. This got, really. So what was done, if you have a look here, user screen, this was displayed here and the output came, basically, programming. For programming, you need lots of time to adjust with these problems. Now, the problem is that this is not going to, allow you write anything. So let me, tell you verbally, yeah. So you wrote a program, yeah, and you wrote get ch. Then what would have done? Then after displaying this, code, the user screen would have been waiting for you.
Another input.
Yeah.
For another action.
Yeah, for any action, so that just to basically this won't allow you to use until you save. See the now Patrick, this turbo editor, yeah, is used for C language as well as C++ programming. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So when there are two types of programs. When you write the C code, then you need to save the program in extension C, right? And then if it is a C++, then you need to include many things and the way it requires. Yeah. Now again, there is some needs some time. 1 second. Basically, I don't have a full control on this. Just making problem. So well, I want to save the time and let me give you the full information about the theoretical background first, and in the meantime let me solve it. Is it okay?
Okay.
Yeah. The reason for practical there you would be finding lots of problems, and my cursor is not working in order to maximize these things. And however, now we come to our point that you need even I can't move the cursor out of window now.
You're stuck now inside that box.
Yeah, and even can't do anything. But that's not a problem, to be honest. You doing practice is different thing. Understanding is must. Yeah. So but I would definitely help you to solve any of your problems. Yeah. And just let me give you the full idea first, and then we come back here. Yeah. So procedural programming. Yeah. So procedure programming, then functional programming. Yeah. And the function, got an advantage to be used as a reusable. The first language, or maybe the good language is C language. Yeah. It gave a kind of a powerful high level language in C. Yeah. Which helped to utilize the functions. Make sense, Nathan?
Yes.
Yeah. Now you are aware with the unstructured programming like C language, continuous. Then you have an idea that procedure is the programming which would execute the normal code. Yeah. And but may not necessarily return anything or may not get any new input. Yeah. So that's about the procedure. And the functional programming has the capability to take the input. Yeah. So entry point in the C programming is itself a function, yeah, and you can define the type of the function that it returns something, it takes some input, yeah, but it's not only the one function, but you can use more than one function. Like this is integer, main function is the entry point, and you can also define your own function here as well. Right? Make sense?
Yes.
Now, you have an option to add more than two functions into, one program. Make sense, Patrick?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay. So how you would be, for example, how you would be calling this function? You can call this function like add 5 4 comma 4 into the main function. What would have done? You can say something, for example, int answer. Yeah, so you can assign the answer. What would happen? Your program would run with I'm alive. Then it would wait. Once you would, for example, press any character, then this add function would have been called, and the values of 4 and 4 would be passed to A and B. Yeah, and A and B would be calculated, and this would return the output. Output would be like addition would be assigned to C, and the capability of this add function would return C. Basically would replace this whole thing into the value of 8. Make sense?
Okay, yeah, I've got that.
Yeah. Nitin, very simple?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Now, we are here. What's problem with this now? What's problem with this functional programming, and why the programmers needed object-oriented programming?
In this program, you create a function add, and you specify the procedure for the function add. But
Yeah.
we have not a function which will display the result of add function.
No, that's not a problem. I can display the result as well. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
That's a printf, it's done like printf, and then you do something person D, and answer something like that. I don't want to go into the detail that why this why use person D and something like what it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. But why this paradigm was not encouraged, and why another paradigm like object oriented was needed?
For the every calculation, we have to create a new function.
No. Do you know what is object oriented programming?
Yes.
Can you explain the three pillars of the object oriented programming?
Class,
Sorry?
object, class, object, and parameters.
No. The three characteristics of object oriented programming are basically inheritance, polymorphism and encapsulation.
Yes.
You know about it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Patrick, what happened that this, even the functional programming did not help to cope with the real world problems. Yeah, this did not help to cope with the real world problems. What was problem? Basically, for example, if you wanted to create 100 functions, yeah, 100 functions for 100 functionalities, yeah, then you would require, let's say 1,000 of variables, int A, int B, int C, yeah, and thousands of variables.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, then it was very difficult to distinguish and secure the variables of a particular variable from accidentally changing. For example, you say that 5 variables would be used for function A, another 5 variables would be used for function B, and another 5 variables would be used for function C. Then by mistake it happens, then the intended function, the one function which requires to use the particular variable, by mistake easily could be modified, and you would never know that you did it intentionally or not. Make sense?
Yeah, yes, I see. Yeah, because there's just so many of them. It's messy, isn't it?
It is. However, it's kind of modularized, yeah, and you have a code in modules, yeah, modules in a function, yeah, but still they are at risk. You understand, Nitin?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, it didn't have the proper encapsulation. It didn't have the proper encapsulation. You know the capsule, yeah. Capsule contains a kind of, a medicine, and you encapsulate it, yeah.
Yes.
So the idea came into for the object-oriented programming. The object-oriented programming says that any entity, yeah, you consider as an object. Any entity you consider an object. For example, if you want to write the program for, a school management system, yeah, then you independently identify the nouns. For example, a student, you create a class of a student. Now, what is class? Class means you represent the student as an object. Yeah, you represent a student as an object. Now there would be a confusion that what is the difference between the class?
Yes.
Patrick? Yeah. What's the difference between the class and object, Nitin?
Object has a class.
Have you done Java?
No.
Okay. So simply now, basically the class is an instance. Class is an instance of the object.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. One second.
So, am I right in thinking that an object is made up of lots of classes? Yeah.
Yeah. Like when you create the object, the object is an instance of the class.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. So object, basically you abstract, you define the class. For example, student. When you really create the object, yeah, of a student, then it becomes the object, and you physically create it. Like class is a model, it's an abstraction, and object is the instance of the class, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what happens now? Let me write the code for you in Java, or more likely in, for example, class enroll college. College is a class, right? Now class student is another class. Yeah. Class teacher is another class. Make sense? Now,
Yes.
previously we were creating the functions into one file. Yeah, like in C. Here we created functions, but we are creating a class into a single file. Now the beautification of the object oriented programming is that a class can have attributes and methods as well. For example, you can define integer a and add function within the college. Now, for example, student int a, add function within the student. Make sense? Now, can you realize that this a variable is within the college class and this a variable is within the student class? Yeah. Now, this is purely encapsulated and free from any accidental change or side effect. Because you cannot access this a by mistake. However, you would need for example this variable college dot a, student dot a. Make sense?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously there is some way to create the object first. Yeah. But in order to qualify the access to particular attribute, you need to access it via its class or object. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Now, did you realize that object oriented concept has given the encapsulation in the programming? Nitin,
Yes.
is it good feature?
Good feature. And
Yeah.
the border, it means that the limitation of a defined by itself in a different class.
Say again.
Limitations for the a, which is one object,
Yeah.
it has defined with respect to the class.
Yeah.
This is the character of the object-oriented programming.
Like that I use the word qualified. Yeah. Basically, it's the terminology for every language. Yeah. You use a
Yes.
terminology like Java when you use the attribute. Yeah. And like in Java, the functions are called the methods and variables are called the attributes. Yeah. And it's very clear that you can only access a with its qualified class. Like the qualified class is college here, and here it's student. Yeah. And you cannot access it without the name of the class. That's the beautification, that the items are encapsulated. Yeah.
Yes.
Now this is the only one feature of the class. Yeah. Then the next option is the inheritance. Yeah. Inheritance is basically, for example, class is student. When you say extends, yeah, then extends college. Yeah. then what would happen if you defined int b? Then what would happen, the b, there isn't any b here into the student class, but you can access this print b here. Did you understand? Now the capabilities of class college, like attributes, there are two attributes, one is a, another is b. So obviously you can access a and b within this. However, when you write student class extends college, then its own variable is a, but you can still access b directly. Patrick, you understand this?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah. So it has extended the capability of a class by inheriting some attributes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that is another feature of, that's called the inheritance. Did you get it, Nitin?
Yes.
Yeah. The third feature is polymorphism. Yeah. So polymorphism is basically, you know, that when you have same number of classes and dynamically you get the, you know, attribute. So maybe that you know, polymorphism concept could have been, you know, understood by after reading 4-5 chapters and after doing practice of 4-5 months, you know.
Okay.
Especially on Java. So I'm not going to discuss, you know, polymorphism right now. It would require you to understand first, do some, you know, programming. And if you are really interested, then you can start with. However, the requirement for this computer programming unit is very basic. You need to require maybe only C programming, and within the assignment there is a basic, you know, arithmetic calculator or computation program you can create. Yeah.
Okay.
I would love to teach you Java one by one and could take you to, you know, polymorphism and all features and, you know, further, but, you know, unfortunately we cannot discuss right now. So now let me try to uh, summarize these definitions. So object oriented programming has got these features, you know, encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance, as compared to the functional programming. And before the functional programming, the procedural programming came in, and before unstructured programming were there. So that's about the, you know, introduction of these things. Now, do you have any question from, you know, so far?
Is there any recommended reading for this?
Recommendation, you know, there isn't any recommendation for the reading. However, if you want to start with the C language, then you can select any book from the for C programming. I will send you, you know, few of the books, you know, in the PDF so that you can start with.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, okay.
And today was the second lecture, basically, on the learning outcome 2. It advised to use the data models or conceptual models, and you know, to use the, you know, the Nitin, what is pseudocode?
The pseudocode, no.
Basically, the pseudocode is writing your code in a kind of, you know, human understandable language, but you explicitly, you know, mention the logic that how it would be. Like, you know, this is the form of code I have written here is a kind of pseudocode. Okay. And if it is an algorithm is basically the number of steps how you would, do any particular calculation and in what steps.
And it is also used in decision making programming. I mean, if there are two options, yes or no, we can use algorithm.
Algorithm can be used for anything. Yeah, if you add two numbers, then what is the algorithm? The algorithm is that first number should be added with the second number. That's the algorithm. Yeah. So
Yes.
that's about the algorithm, and the concepts in the learning outcome 1. Yeah, we hardly could go through the reason because the knowledge which I could deliver apart from the was much more valuable than going through these things. Like what is API? I explained to the Patrick, API is the application programming interface. Like once your program is ready, you really want your program to be communicated by any other source. For example, Emirates website, yeah, they sell their tickets by themselves, but if they really want the tickets to be sold by the agents, yeah, then they allow other agents to be communicated through the API. Yeah, so they provide the interface. So that's about the API. Then there are lots of API technologies, and how the API would be good. Certain criteria like security, functionality, and usability needs to be considered. And SDLC is basically the system development programming. For example, if you have to write a big program, and then you should go through the system development life cycle. You should have correct requirements, then you design, then you really code. Yeah, we are in a phase for the programming. It means we are in the phase of implementation. So far we have already, for example, studied system analysis and design. Now we are studying the programming, which is the implementation. So importance of SDLC is already clear. Have you studied about the SDLC?
Yes.
Yeah. So
in level 3.
Level 3, even few of the units, we have already covered. So we have discussed lot of, about the SDLC. Patrick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then the talking about the theory about the procedural programming, functional programming. Then I explained the object-oriented programming and variables, constants, operators. They are very much clear. I yesterday gave an example to Patrick as well. Like in mind, we create a temporary memory in our mind and do some calculations the same way. How the brain works, the computer program needs to be designed in such a way that it should have some memory, some place, and constants. Yeah.
Yes.
And then in today's LO2, be able to develop a computer program. So computer program today, we try to execute the program, and maybe it's very simple. What we expect here is when you write a program, the computer screen, especially in the C programming, it would go through the user screen first. Yeah, output should have stayed at the user screen, and user screen is basically you can see here, user screen. The output would have been shown here, and using the get character, it would have stayed. Otherwise, it if you don't use, then the code would be returning here. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you can, Patrick, you can try this, programming, and try this editor and see how you can write the program and how you can save it. If you have any difficulty, you are most welcome to ask me. And like on the YouTube, you will have lots of, very basic, tutorials that how you save the program, and how you write the first program, how you write the second program. I hope you know that this is very basic thing. You are most welcome to ask any question next time, yeah, and now as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Any question you want to ask?
Not really. No, I don't really know what to ask, to be honest.
Okay, because the programming is very new for you. So
yeah, because
yeah.
you couldn't get it to work, I don't think I'll be able to get it to work.
You couldn't get to practice. Sorry.
I was just saying because you couldn't get it to work, I'll probably find it quite difficult to, because I consider you to be an expert.
It's no. 1 second. If you stay here, yeah, then I can do it. In front of you. Basically, my cursor got stuck, so I was helpless to go to the. Like I compiled this, yeah, and I executed this, and this went to user screen, yeah, and Alt W is user screen. See here, hello.
Okay.
Yeah. So hello is there. There is a user screen. I pressed escape again, and I can. Nitin, are you watching as well? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So here is hello, and if I wanted to get ch waiting here, then this also could be done, but I will have to add the include above, yeah, stdio. That's why it won't allow. Alt C, compiled, yeah, that's fine, and function should return a value. Let's say return 0. Now Alt C, last bit. Now no warning, no error, and Alt R is waiting for you, hello. Another time, because the screen was not cleared and we could clear the screen as well. So output is waiting for you until you press. So now I press the any key. This is returning here. Right?
Okay, yeah.
It wasn't, rocket science, sometime what happens if the directory structure or any other problems happens, we then need to set the directory structure, need to include certain necessary files. So I didn't want it to go into that, troubleshooting first, because it could take, 30 seconds, it could take 5 minutes, it could take to the new installation sometimes. So I prefer to get it done, the class first and then practice. So it's very simple.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can always, ask me question. You can do the practice. You can go to YouTube. I believe you would get lots of tutorials, and soon we will be, we will complete the basic. Basically, I can only, explain to you for a whole story, the advantages, disadvantages of this programming, and then it's your choice to do some programming and select any programming language and come up with a basic simple assignment solution. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So we don't have to do it in C then.
You can do your assignment in any programming language, but the C is the very basic programming language, and you cannot get rid of it, and you have to select anything. Every programming language needs to be followed by particular code.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay. So Patrick, if you want to leave, then you can leave, and I would stay, a few more minutes with Nitin in order to discuss, anything else you want to ask, and even if you want to stay, you are most welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll leave now.
Yeah, as you wish. Yeah. So Nitin.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
So
here.
yeah. So Patrick, is already in contact with me, and do you want to ask anything regarding the course timing and so maybe 1 second. Let me close the recording, because we try to keep the recording for repetition purpose, so that whatever the lecture is, that needs to be repeated by anyone. Yeah. And so let me close the recording. Yeah.